Hey everybody, Plasma 1945 with you, taking off from the Tbilisi airport on the red side on growling sidewinder. This video is going to be talking about weapon and missile use on the Russian planes, but I'm also going to touch on using missiles on NATO planes and how to use them effectively and how to prevent your friendlies from getting shot down by your missiles through misuse and accidents. I'd recommend for anybody who flies multiplayer to watch this video. Let's go quickly over the missile layout on my plane. I'm flying an Su-27. I've got 4 Fox 1 missiles. Those are the missiles right in the center. Those are 27 ERs. 2 Fox 2 missiles. Those are 27 ETs. These are long-range heat seekers. And 4 R-73s. Those are short-range, sidewinder-style missiles that are on the 2 outer pylons of each of my wings. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to jump ahead to a VR recording of this flight that actually I'm going to play back for you later. But in this case, I'm engaging an F-14 Tomcat that is diving away, and I'm trying to pursue him. And you're going to see something kind of interesting here. This is a misuse of Fox 2 Sidewinder style missiles. These are the R-73s. I fired 2 of them. One failed to track, went for flares. The second one tracked, but the F-14 did an incredible job of going into the vertical and evaded the missile. The third missile goes after the Tomcat and again goes for the flares. This Tomcat is very lucky, and now I have to switch to guns to finish him off. He's trying to use some brakes here, trying to really get out of my weapon employment zone, and I am doing my very best to get the gun pepper on him. Don't need too many shots, I just need him to be out of action so that I can either shoot him down or extend. But very important thing to keep in mind is if you are flying against a hostile plane, until you see a fireball and that plane goes down, do not consider it a victory. But the reason I want to show this to you is most of the time I'm flying like this in VR. Now, so that everybody doesn't have the experience of just puking and barfing at watching my videos, what I will do is I will replay the flight track and record it from a couple of angles so I can get an external view and an internal view without my head wobbling back and forth. But later on in this flight, the track file, due to internet, or lack of lag or whatever, will actually show that my third R-73 hit the Tomcat. It still shows me using the guns and everything else, but it shows that the Tomcat got hit by the R-73. So I wanted to play that back to you because that looked really cool that I had to switch to guns and finish him off that way. Hey, technology at its best, right? So I'm in the valleys. There's a few hostiles flying around. I'm trying to evade them, trying to stay off of the radar. Because I'm fully loaded with missiles here, there is very little chance of me going fast enough to actually do anything too serious here. So I'm not going to climb up high and go really fast because I am very heavy. I have quite a bit of fuel and I have quite a bit of missiles. If you do want to conserve your fuel and you don't have a lot of hostiles near you, you can climb up high and go faster. But only do that if there's no hostiles that can potentially shoot you from the bottom up with a sidewinder or with an AMRAAM. In this case, I do have a hostile in front of me. I believe it's an F-16. He is maneuvering in a dogfight here. Now, as you can see, I am constantly changing my weapons, going from the 27 ERs, which are Fox 1s, to the R-73s. The reason I'm doing that is because I can see that there's also a friendly on my data link here in front of me. At this point, I can see that the friendly is extending away, and I can see that this plane is maneuvering very aggressively. I slot in behind him, and then switch back to the R-73s for a shot. At this point, I switch back to the ERs because the sun's in front of me. I don't want my missiles going for the sun. At the last second, the hostile maneuvers, dives down to the deck. I switch to an R-73 and get the hostile. Splash 1. Now, weapon usage. In this case, I was switching between the 27 ERs and the R-73s for 2 reasons. The 27 ERs are great when you have a hostile and a friendly situation. So for example, you might have a friendly who is down to guns or who is in a bad situation who needs help. Bluntly put, they need help and you want to come and help them. In those cases, firing a 27 ER or a Sparrow missile, which is a radar guided missile, is the best option, because a radar guided missile if you've locked your hostile successfully and correctly. If you've IFF'd and confirmed that this is a hostile, a radar guided missile will only go for that target. I've never had a friendly fire splash with a 27 ER if I IFF'd. If I confirmed that this is a hostile, locked him and fired a 27 ER or a Sparrow type missile, it will follow your radar beam to that target and that target only. The other time to use a 27 ER or a radar guided missile such as a Fox 3, and we're talking AIM 120, we're talking SD10 or R77, is if there is sun behind your target. If the sun's behind your target, or the target might climb into the sun, switch over to a radar guided missile, whether it's a Fox 3 or a Fox 1. Those will get to the point. In other situations, the 27 ERs are fantastic missiles. They have a lot of energy, they maneuver fairly well, and if you do not need to worry about breaking lock and extending, 27 ERs are the best thing to use. Now, breaking lock and extending, when does that happen? In this case, as you can see, I've picked up a hostile right in front of me here. I see that there's no other hostiles nearby. I fire a 27 ER. She's on her way to the hostile, and at this point he actually gets splashed by a friendly. The benefit of a 27 ER or a semi-active missile like this is as soon as I drop my lock and unlock that target, that missile is pretty much inert. It's going to continue on its way in the direction I fired it. It's not going to go intelligent, it's not going to go active and look for another target. If you have a number of friendlies fighting with a hostile, or it's a one-on-one dogfight and you want to come and help, and if you fire an AIM 120, an SD10 or an R77 into that mix, even if you've locked up the friendly and you fired, there is still a chance that that AIM 120 or an SD10, basically a Fox 3 missile, will go active and go after a friendly. The safest rule of thumb is if it's safe, fire whatever you want, but if there is a chance you might kill a friendly, either don't fire anything at all or fire a Fox 1. Why is that important? Well, in multiplayer, depending on the server, sometimes you may end up starting up a plane fully from cold state. That's 10 minutes. That plane, you end up flying for 10 minutes towards a hostile area. That's another 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And all of a sudden, a friendly shoots you in the butt with a missile. That is the worst thing ever. And that's on a server where you won't get punished for it. Some servers such as Growling Sidewinder, unless you apologize and you're forgiven, you will get kicked out of the server and you'll get penalty points. After enough penalty points, you'll get completely kicked out of the server. So that's no fun at all. So keep these things in mind. Be aware of what you're using and when you're firing. The other thing is, stand off from the mess. If you're looking at my TAC view in the top right hand corner here, you'll see that there was a bunch of friendlies flying just north of me. I'm down to 80% thrust and I'm just patrolling. Why? Because I don't want to get into a mess of a bunch of hothead, possibly noobs, fighting with a bunch of other noobs. Because I might eat a missile in the middle of the dogfight from a friendly. Also, I might shoot down a friendly. And thirdly, why would I want to go and rain on their parade? They're all having fun. At this point, I recognize, based on my data link, that there's not a heck of a lot of friendlies, and I turn around to re-engage. I stood back, waiting for any hostiles to break through so I could get them, or waiting for any friendlies that are going to run cold so that I could come in for an intercept. So at this point, I see a number of hostiles coming through, and I start vectoring towards them. So looking down on my HUD, just below my HUD on the right side on my radar screen, my data link is showing that there is an enemy plane within 30 kilometers coming in for me, or possibly coming in. I don't think this plane was aware of where I was because I was using mountains for cover and staying low. So now I'm vectoring in towards him, and I've switched into vertical scan, and I've switched over to the 73s. After a few moments of thought, switch back to 27 ERs. And the reason I've switched to 27 ERs is if I'm going to go into a aft aspect fight, so if I'm going to start chasing this guy, if he passes over me, I can fire an ER at him and I can hold that lock. Also, ER has a lot of energy, it'll catch up to him real quick. Here we go, the hostile's getting close to me. Passes right over me at fairly high speed. I've got him visually. At this point, I bring my HUD past the target and fire a 27 ER. So why did I do that? I was looking at the sun. As you can see, the sun is right in front of me. If I fired an R-73 or an ET, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to go for the sun, or even more. So that would have been a waste of a missile, and the bandit might have had a few seconds to acquire me. Firing a 27 ER at close range at a target that is not flying in crazy maneuvering behaviors was the most ideal option here. 1, no chance for sun to spoil it. 2, the bandit is cold, which means that I need to track him. And 3, fire and kill him. Alright, another bandit pop up. Pick him up in front of me, send another ER. Again, same thing. I know the sun is there, I know the bandit is cold aspect, which means that the ER has a lot of energy. The 73 doesn't have that much power, and the ET might go for the sun. I don't get a kill feed. I don't know if he's dead or not. To me, it looked like he went behind that little hill with the snow on top of it. Vertical scan, scanning at the area where he might pop out of. My radar's on. And at this point, I pick up a plane out of the corner of my eye on the right side of the screen. It's another F-16. That first one had hit the ground. This one, no time to think. 27 ER selected. Fox 1, and he is gone. Alright, I'm not sure which splash that is. Splash 4, I guess. Because that guy crashed evading my missile, so I could take that as a... yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that maneuvering kill, sure. Alright, so, what's my current situation? I don't think I've wasted any missiles here. Well, I've wasted the one missile that didn't hit the guy, but overall, so far I've got still 5 missiles left, and I've already splashed 4 guys. So this is a pretty good setup. So at this point, I'm picking up a hostile in front of me, 12 o'clock. He's cold aspect. He's flying south towards a group of friends. Looking at the data link, which I can do now, and TAC view, which I can only do after the flight, there's actually 3 friendlies there. All 3 are showing up on my data link. They're in and out of the hills. Hostiles in front of me. I'm approaching him as close as I possibly can to fire a missile, because for some reason the friendlies don't have tally on him. And they haven't killed him yet. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot into the sun, but I'm going to get as close as I possibly can to this hostile. As point blank as possible before I fire my missile. ET launch. It has quite a bit of energy. This guy's maneuvering. Not the best thing to do because a friendly just flies right in front of me at that moment. And there's another friendly right there too. But for whatever reason, they couldn't shoot that hostile down, so I had to jump in and deal with him. Not the best situation. This is not the recommended way to employ these weapons. But the only thing I could do to prevent a friendly from getting shot is to get as close as I possibly can to that hostile. He was ignoring me, and I had to get in close. I turned on my radar to make sure that I could IFF the hostile, so there was no chance I was locking a friendly, and that's when I fired. Alright, so splash 5, I guess. Cool. I'm still not sure why those 3 guys couldn't get that hostile. I guess I gotta do all the work. Alright, well, what do we have on data link here? We've got 2 more hostiles coming in from my 10 o'clock. They're inbound. They're about mid-altitude, so they're about 9,000 feet, maybe 3,000 meters. Continuing vertical scan. Using the mountains as cover, putting the mountains between me and their potential radar signal. I see that one of them has fired a Phoenix missile. Shows up on data link as a really fast-flying plane, because a Russian data link can actually see the Phoenix missiles. Alright, let's disregard that Phoenix, use mountains for cover, and approach these 2 hostiles and see if I can get a couple of more splashes here. Now keep in mind, this is the Tomcat engagement, so this will be a TAC view playback that I'm doing. Sorry, a track view playback, not a TAC view playback. So here, for some reason, the 73 will connect, but you'll still see me using the guns. Alright, the first hostile has been shot down. There's the smoke trail. At this point, I have the F-14 on my data link. Hot aspect. Looks like he's not paying attention to me. Get him locked up. I know there's no friendlies there. And I launch a 27 ET on him. Now, was this a good launch? This was not the best launch possible, but I really tried to launch in the best possible aspect. There goes the ET, but that Tomcat is diving very aggressively. And if you look right below my plane, the ET actually has hit the mountain. Alright, one missile wasted. Tomcat's going low. 73 out. Goes for flares. Second 73 out. It does a crazy maneuver, flies above me and towards that Tomcat, but the Tomcat pulls some crazy G's, and he has evaded that missile. Sticking to vertical scan, so this is the missile that actually isn't supposed to connect, but whether to server lag or whatever else, but here it does connect, and I get a hit on the Tomcat. It doesn't go for the flares. I'm staying in pursuit. In real world, he wasn't smoking. In the playback, he's still smoking, but I'm still going to put my gunshots on him. Again, make sure that the bandit has been splashed and eliminated before you go and look for another target. There's been many times, and there we go. There's a splash of the Tomcat. So I guess it's splash 6. In my experience, I've had scenarios where I would receive an AIM 120 and I would, for some reason, would still be alive. Those are rare scenarios. But a Fox 2 missile, such as a Sidewinder, a PL5, or an R77, or sorry, R73, not the R77, but the R73. In the cases of those missiles being employed against you, short-range Fox 2s, you can very easily take a hit, maybe lose an engine, maybe lose some electronics, but you will still be able to fly. Now remember, if that can happen to you, that can happen to an enemy. So if you do not see a fireball and the plane hit the ground, do not consider that enemy as splashed. Eyes on, tally on, track that plane all the way to the ground until the point of impact, and then pull away and extend. If you've got a wingman, get the wingman to track that plane going down before you pull away or before you commit to another target. I've had many a scenario where I would get an AIM 9 and I would continue flying and kill my hostile who I was fighting with, and in some cases even get a few more kills and even land. So always track the target to the ground. Alright, let's summarize here. So I took off with a match of missiles on my plane, and I used all of them. What were the spoilers? The R73s that went for the Tomcat, and none of them hit, so I had to finish off the Tomcat with guns. The Tomcat employed flares very aggressively at the right times, and a maneuver to avoid my close-range Fox 2s. My ET was wasted when I fired the Tomcat when the Tomcat was in a dive, and the ET has hit the mountain. So those 4 missiles are a wash. Other than that, my other ET that I used went for a hostile who was potentially in the zone of the sun with some friendlies nearby. To avoid hitting a friendly, I closed the distance as much as possible, made sure only that hostile was in front of me when I launched, and that was a splash. The other launches was an R73 at a close range maneuvering hostile who dove below the horizon and who was aggressively maneuvering, no chance of hitting a friendly. Everything else were the use of the 27 ERs, which are Fox 1 missiles, to shoot at targets which were medium to short range distance, but were cold, facing the sun, so that my missiles might have gone for the sun if I used any heat seekers. And all of those were successful. One forced a crash, and the other ones hit their targets. So overall, successful flight. I guess I can call this Splash 6 if I consider that maneuvering kill. Splash 5 if I don't consider the maneuvering kill. Hopefully you've watched this video all the way through and found it interesting and useful. Use these tactics to prevent yourself from hitting any friendlies. Always IFF. Don't waste your missiles for pointless shots. And use F10 and your data link to find out where your friendlies are so that you're always working as a team. It's Plasma 1945 signing off, and make sure you hit like and subscribe.